This episode of What's Going On with Shipping, the Black Sea War. A NATO ship has been sunk. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to What's Going On with Shipping. We've been following what's been transpiring in the Ukraine following the Russian invasion for the past week. You can check our past episodes on the naval and maritime dimension right here. Today, we get word that a Panamanian-flagged, Estonian-owned vessel has been sunk by a mine off the port of Odessa. The vessel had been taken over by the Russian Navy and used in a way to potentially clear mines. We're not sure, but we're going to give you the latest on that. We're going to talk about the impact on global shipping from the Russia-Ukraine war, and we'll also talk about the hunt across the world for Russian yachts. Before we do so, take a moment. Please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos when they come out. Let's get right to the first story. Story number one comes from G Captain, John Conrad. NATO member-owned ship sinks off Odessa. Russia used civilian ship as a human shield. The Estonian-owned cargo ship Halt sunk on Thursday off the Ukrainian port of Odessa after an explosion. Igor Eves, managing director of the Tallinn-based manager Vista Shipping Agency, told Reuters. 2 crew members were in a life raft at sea, while 4 others were unaccounted for. The vessel has finally sunk, he said. 2 of the crew are in a raft on the water. 4 others are missing. I don't know where they are at the moment. Eves said the vessel might have struck a mine. Estonia is a member of NATO, leading to fears that sinking could spark further conflict in Eastern Europe, writes Jonathan Sulls of Reuters. The article goes on. The Ukrainian Navy has accused the Russian Black Sea Fleet of using civilian vessels for cover, a tactic that it said Russian ground forces were also using. The Ukrainians accused the Russians of forcing the Estonia, a NATO member-owned merchant vessel MV Helt, to enter the dangerous zone of the Black Sea so that the occupiers can cover themselves with a civilian ship as a human shield. The Ukrainian Navy said the Russian had threatened to fire on the ship if it did not comply. The Ukrainian Navy is calling the incident an illegal act of piracy. Let's go over to marine traffic. We are still seeing the Helt right here off the Black Sea, even though we know the vessel has sunk. That was that image I had at the beginning here of the video. Here is Odessa. The AIS transponder last hit a little over 6 hours ago, almost noon here on the East Coast of the United States on March 3rd. We know that the Ukrainians were probably mining this area. We'll talk about how we know about that in a minute. And the Helt may have been used to cover Russian vessels or Russian special forces coming into the harbor, or potentially mine sweeping operations by having a civilian vessel out there. The Helt, which is a small general cargo ship, is operated here by the Vista Shipping Agency. You'll see they run 3 vessels. Here's the Helt herself, a little detailed information sheet on her. Not a very large ship. Basically a 2-hold or excuse me, a 1-hold large kind of cavernous bulk carrier, just a little bit over 79 meters in length, just 10 meters wide, built back in 1985. She's Panamanian flagged, but again, Estonian owned. This is the information that's been put out by NATO, the NATO Shipping Center at Norwood. We didn't get a lot about them until the war started. We had a notice on February 15th encouraging them to use the Mediterranean Voluntary Reporting Scheme in case anything does happen. There was a recommendation on the Black Sea released on February 24th, but then we get this risk of collateral damage in the Northwestern Black Sea report. Just came out yesterday. Let me go ahead and remove myself so you can see the full thing. There's a high risk of collateral damage on civilian shipping in the northwest part of the Black Sea. Well, duh. There are several open sources of civilian ships being hit directly or indirectly as a result of the acts of war in the northwestern Black Sea within Ukrainian territorial waters and adjacent international waters. Civilian shipping is encouraged to exercise caution and be on the high alert in the areas. Likewise, shipping is encouraged to stay in close contact with national and local marine authorities. Shipping should thoroughly document any incidents and report these via respective national channels and local maritime authorities. It goes on here to talk a little bit more about it. It talks about the warnings. A large number of navigation warnings have been issued, covering a number of warning areas, including mine danger areas. Here's their map they released with this of the Black Sea. Here is that region off Odessa. You'll see these green regions close to the coast here, which are mine areas or zones of mines, they believe. They also have warning areas along the Sea of Azov. This is up in the region of Mariupol. This is off the Kerch Strait. Come back here to marine traffic. We'll zoom out here a little bit. And one of the things we see is still no traffic moving through the Sea of Azov. It's believed that Ukrainian forces are encircled around Mariupol right here, and that's preventing Russian vessels piled up at the Kerch Strait and in Rostov to be able to move freely. We know that there were initial attacks against vessels. This Maritime Executive Report from February 24th talks about this, talks about the initial attacks that were staged, including against several Russian ships by the Ukrainians, against the SGC Flot and against the Seraphim Sarvasky. So that was an attempt to shut down Russian access between the Kerch Strait and the Sea of Azov. The issue here with the Helt, but isn't a serious one. It goes on here. The Russian Black Sea Fleet continues the tactic of Russian ground forces trying to hide behind civilian lines. The Russian fleet had already fired on 2 civilian ships and captured 2 ships of the Russian occupiers, including the Sapphire, a search and rescue ship on a humanitarian mission. Ukrainian officials said the Russian ships gave the commercial ship an ultimatum. They claim a Russian warship ordered Helt to enter the dangerous zone of the Black Sea to protect themselves from Ukrainian artillery, using the civilian ship as a human shield. If the ship did not comply, the Russian Navy threatened to open fire on the Helt. There's nothing but a 21st century piracy, according to a Ukrainian Navy official. The vessel itself is a 37-year-old vessel, again, sailing under Panama. It goes on to talk about the fact that Splash 24/7 reports there are 105 merchant ships in Ukrainian waters this morning, down from 157 at the start of the war. The story from John Conrad goes on to cite the fact that NATO is not protecting NATO-owned or NATO-flagged vessels. There's a question here about Russian vessels attacking ships outside the Black Sea. Don't think that's a large issue at all to happen. Go over here to Channel 16 from Dryad Global. Dryad Global is a marine security agency. They have stories on this. Great database. If you want to go back in and talk about the early attacks, they have information on here all the way back to the early attacks. They document them all. But this most recent attack on the Helt is featured right here. Let me go ahead and remove myself here so you can see a little bit better. This is it. Reports from the Ukrainian ship authorities report the Panamanian flag vessel Helt has been struck while anchored 23 miles southeast of Odessa port. Port indicate the vessel was fired upon, received a hole below the waterline. Images appear to indicate an attack commensurate with a mine attack. The last report from the vessel indicated a list of 70 degrees with the comments, "We sit on the raft." At 12:18 hours local, the Helt is understood to have disappeared from the radar. The 6 crew members of the vessel are reported to be in satisfactory condition. This image right here from Twitter shows the vessel. You'll see her sinking right there, going down. So not a lot more on the vessel. We know that she has basically disappeared. This follows on the heel of several other attacks. This story here from G Captain, Bangladeshi ship hit by missile at Ukrainian port reports. Mike Schuller here is reporting about the hit on a Bangladesh ship, the Bangalore Samhridhi, which was in the port of Alvia in Ukraine. Come back over here to marine traffic. We know that the Russians have come out of the Crimean Peninsula. They're heading northeast to link up with forces coming out of the Donbass region. They have encircled Mariupol, but they've also headed northwest in and around the city of Kherson. Here's the port of Kherson right here. There are several ships in the port of Kherson right now that we know of: the Sea Lord, a Belize ship, the Risk Noble, which is a Panamanian flag, or Wreck Noble, which is a Panamanian flag vessel, and the Steel Cougar, also a Panamanian flag vessel. There was an earlier tanker down here. It's gone from AIS right now, but she was a Russian tanker that had gotten in there before the war started, maybe being used for replenishment or refueling. Over here at the port of Alvia, you'll see the Mallard out here. The Bangladesh vessel was right here. She's not showing up on AIS right now, and she took a hit to the aft house close to the bridge, may have been damaged. And further upriver at this port here at Myclave, we see several vessels here. What's not showing right now that had been showing earlier was a Danish vessel, the Harald Maersk, a Danish vessel that was there. Some of these vessels are starting to turn their AIS transponders off for fear of being targeted. Here's the Bangladesh vessel. Let's go ahead and play this video here for you. This is the vessel on fire, burning. This is obviously after the attack took place. This video here also on Twitter shows the vessels, the two vessels right there. This is the Banglar Hadidi right here, the ship that's going to be hit. And you'll see the strike. Not sure if it's a missile strike or a bomb, but obviously right in the house, we know it killed a Bangladesh engineer on board. So conflict expanding in the Black Sea against vessels with the loss of the Helt, the hit on the Bangladesh ship, and the loss of a Bangladesh engineer. This story came out the other day, also yesterday. Northern Black Sea is now a warlike area as Navy fails to protect shipping in NATO waters. The area on the north side of the Sea of Azov has been designated a warlike area, meaning the ITF, the International Transport Workers Federation, has put some provisions in place should vessels find themselves in that area. ITF, again, the story kind of builds on that from Maritime Executive. And then these stories right here, Russia may have mined Ukrainian waters, says NATO. So NATO is warning about mining in the waters around the area. The Helt, we know, hit a mine, probably hit a Ukrainian mine. Obviously, if the Russians have taken over that vessel, they were using her as a shield to either bring their vessels in, perhaps their amphibious vessels. We know that the most recent image we've seen is of about a half dozen amphibious vessels off the coast of Crimea. This is from H.I. Sutton over at Covert Shores, depicting from the beach in Crimea, the Russian Black Sea fleet, largely their amphibious ships. You'll see right here 5 Rapucha class landing ships sitting there off the beach, a Ivan Grass class landing ship, and 2 Alligator class landing ships with some warships in the background. That means that obviously the Black Sea Fleet is standing by to be called out. And then, of course, if this is the case where we see them, fearing about this, we can expect the Russian fleet to be heading toward the waters around Odessa. And that is exactly what Bloomberg is reporting, that the Russian Navy nears the port of Odessa. So we're seeing these attacks across the Black Sea, focused on the remaining ports being held by the Ukrainians. So if Kherson has fallen, those ships that are in the port are under the control of the Russians right now. Not sure if they're going to release them. However, we know there are potential mine areas at the outlet here coming out of those channels into the Black Sea. We know they're moving just north here, Myclave, and maybe encircling the town with plans to drive on Odessa and cut Ukraine off from the Black Sea. They've effectively done that now through their blockade, but the Ukrainians still holding Mariupol and commanding that narrow little strait here, preventing Russian ships from getting through the Kerch Strait to Rostov. So the situation in the Black Sea still remains quite dangerous. There had been large anchorages of vessels off the Romanian and Bulgarian coast. They've cleared out now. And what we're seeing is kind of this mass exodus out of the Black Sea. One of the sites I really strongly recommend you follow if you want to keep abreast of what's happening is Marine Traffic, particularly their Twitter feed. They do a great job, Georgios and the crew at Marine Traffic. And you'll see here, they put a GIF together showing here the flow of ships out of the Black Sea over the past 10 days. 932 commercial ships passed through the Bosphorus and another 1,073 through the Dardanelles from 22 February to March 3rd. They also have here a imagery and a video here that shows the Helt, the vessel that we talked about not too long ago, and her track, not the clearest thing, but they're showing it right here in the vessel and its movements during this time. And then another track down here showing movements throughout the Black Sea, developments of the commercial activities in the Black Sea. One of the things that stands out in this chart right here, the one they're doing here, is the absence of vessels in the Sea of Azov and the lack of vessels coming out of Odessa. So again, what we're seeing here is really the cutting off of transportation and vessels out of the Sea of Azov, Black Sea, around Odessa, out through the Turkish Straits into the ocean. Now, what does that mean for global shipping and global trade? And more importantly, for you, the YouTube subscriber, to what's going on with shipping? Let's go to story number 2 here, which looks at global trade. So this story here from Bloomberg, war shocks ripple across shipping lines, does a great job of really encapsulating what's happening. You've got a couple of things going on here at the same time. Number one, all the major container companies, Maersk, Mediterranean Shipping Company, Hapag, ONE, CMA, CGM, have all announced they're not delivering to both Ukraine and Russia. So those are major shipping lines. Over 50% of the world's capacity of containers right there. The ones not announcing so far are COSCO, the Chinese Overseas Shipping Company, HMM, which is the South Korean line, and some of the major Taiwanese lines, Evergreen and Yangmin. What this means is a great kind of disruption within the global supply chain. Even though you can argue that Ukraine, Russia don't get a large number of containers, they get some. And more importantly, when you create a disruption in the movement of containers in and out of countries, you are going to all of a sudden disrupt the normal flow. Containers that were expected to be coming out empty now are not going to be available for loading. You also have a requirement to get containers off a vessel that were loaded for Ukraine and Russia, which means they're going to be dumped in the most, like the last port before they were scheduled to arrive. That means you're going to fill up yards with containers that are just going to sit there and occupy space. All this means that shipping, the ability to move cargo and freely flow it, is going to be disrupted, particularly on the container side. Add to it, oil disruptions are going to escalate global prices and rise. Russia is intertwined in the tanker market. I can't tell you how much Russian money is in tankers, from Sovcomflot, their tanker line, to all the way to commercial companies and you name it. I mean, it's going to be hard to get this out. When Great Britain announced they were boycotting Russian ships coming in, it's not just Russian flagged, it's Russian owned, Russian influenced tankers. And this is going to be a big problem in the energy sector. Right here, this story from Lorianne Larocco at Freightways Viewpoint. Don't be fooled, the supply chain is not getting better. This is magnifying to it. We're seeing this across the board. Add to it, commodities jump as Russian sanctions bite. And then you have the president of the United States in the State of the Union and in previous memos empowering the Federal Maritime Commission, the Department of Justice, to go after the 9 big container liners for what he calls excessive profits. All of that means that targets are going to be laid at commercial shipping due to what's going on in Russia. What does that mean for us? Well, let's take a look at freight rates right here. This is the latest freight rate schedule out on FreightWaves for ocean containers. The global index in January was at $9,141. It's now up $9,742. So nearly a $600 increase. If you look from Asia to the East Coast, from 16,500 up to 18.2 thousand. To the West Coast, from 13.7 thousand to 16.1 thousand. Even from the East Coast of the US to Europe, it has doubled. And what that means is as freight rates go up, as commodity prices go up, as tanker rates go up, as bulk carrier rates go up, as the cost of transport goes up, that means inflation transferred to you, more expensive goods. Add to it this, ship owners focus on the crews as Ukrainian crisis worsens. What happens if those 4.5% of Ukrainian crews walk off vessels, incapacitate vessels, or have to get home and abandon the vessel to go check on their loved ones? We could see 5% of the world's ships basically immobilized due to the lack of Ukrainian crews. And if you isolate Russian crews, Russians make up 10% of the world's seafarers around the world. You talk about 15%, 1 out of 7 vessels, 1 out of 8, maybe incapacitated because of the crews. And then again, you get into the EU blacklisting vessels. This story from Lloyd's is great. Talks about the 829 vessels calling in UK and EU ports monthly, and has this great breakdown on by vessel types, what type of vessels are coming in, and more importantly, the Russian connection. Are they the beneficial owner? Are they the operator? Are they a third-party operator? Are they the flag? Are they the manager? Are they registry owned? All of this indicates that the situation with global shipping is going to be impacted by the Russia-Ukraine war. Just because Russia sinks an Estonian flag vessel, don't think that by itself is the only issue at play here. Global shipping is going to see freight rates rise across all aspects of it: containers, bulk, oil. And that means that we're going to see higher prices that we, the consumers, will have to pay. Third story deals about chasing down those Russian assets on the high seas. It's time for the What's Going On with Shipping Below Deck episode, Russian Yachts. So have you ever seen a top 10 list up on a wall of the most wanted around the United States and the world? We've seen those in movies and episodes of NCIS with their wall of victims, or excuse me, of people they want to capture. Well, we have one put out by at Putin is a virus, which is a great Twitter handle. It can't be clear. That's fantastic. But he's been updating this chart, and what he has put out is the most wanted yachts in the world. That's right. Here it is, your hunting list for yachts owned by Russian oligarchs around the world. $7.9 billion worth of boats are out there. And let me be clear, there are some awesome yachts out here. Holy cow. If you've watched an episode of Below Deck, anything, these yachts put those things to shame. You'll see several vessels are basically marked out, crossed out: the Dilbar over in Hamburg, the Amoro Vero in Barcelona, and the Lady Anastasia in Majorca. However, other ones are targeted: the Linea over here in Italy, the Nord in the Seychelles, and the Lady M also over here in Majorca. Excuse me, over in Italy. So what's going on here with the story? Well, here's the Bloomberg story on this that you can take a look at. A great story. All you need to know about Russian yacht arrests. Just a great piece. A lot of fun to read. Super yachts migrating to Maldives. So one of the things we're seeing is these Russian yachts are heading to cover, and they're going to places where they can't be grabbed at. So Maldives is one. Have to be careful that these Russian yachts don't transfer ownership of them to shell corporations and reflag them out from the registries they're on to kind of hide them. The best image in the world, I would argue, is a U.S. destroyer pulling one of these yachts out for impound. I'm waiting to see that. Talks about the super yacht by Alashir Usumov that was grabbed in Germany. This is the Dilbar, 512-foot yacht. Massive. This thing is huge. It is bigger than Navy vessels. And let me be clear, some Navy should grab this thing and put some weapons on it, because this thing is the size of a destroyer. It's huge. Story here about the Ukraine mechanic that was arrested for sabotage. Ukrainian mechanic on board the super yacht. I forget which one it is. Oh, Lady Anastasia. Story is right here. Taras Ostapuk was accused in a local court of opening valves in the engine room of the vessel called Lady Anastasia, according to the Wall Street Journal. The yacht belongs to Alexander Mikev, the chief executive officer of Robuds Export, a Russian weapons exporter. There was a video of a helicopter attacking a building in Kyiv. The Russians are killing innocents, Ostapuk, who had worked on the yacht for 10 years, said in court. According to the Journal, I don't regret anything I've done. I would do it again. Good for you, man. Go ahead and sink that oligarch's yacht. This is exactly how you get back. And this story goes into it. The word is the Department of Justice's klepto capture unit is being tasked to capture these and arrest these Russian yachts on the high seas. And the capture of these yachts will be a direct way to indicate to the Russian oligarchs that they are going to pay for supporting Putin in his war. Obviously, there's other issues at play: mansions, economic sanctions, banks, and money holdings, but the yachts are a pretty symbolic thing, and that's going to be taking place around the world. So a lot going on with these three stories: the attack on the Helt and the Bangladesh vessel yesterday, across the board, obviously indicates an expansion of the war on the Black Sea. It's going to be interesting to see how NATO reacts. The Helt is an Estonian-owned vessel. We've already seen action against NATO vessels. A Turkish vessel, the Yasa Jupiter, was hit by a missile or a bomb. We know that the Russians violated Romanian national waters to pull Ukrainian vessels out and pull them back to their country. So, or excuse me, to Ukraine, I should say, not their country. And so now we're seeing the impacts of this expanding on the Black Sea. No word yet of NATO sending in additional forces through the Black Sea. There's Romanian, Bulgarian, Turkish forces, but no word, for example, if the NATO minesweeping group is going to come in to clear mines, ensure that mines are not breaking loose. No word about more protection for this or retaliation against the Estonian vessel that has now been sunk. At the same time, global shipping is going to see increase in rates. Expect to see inflation at your local stores, markets, when you order goods, because it costs more to ship things. And if you see a Russian yacht anywhere, contact the Department of Justice, because they're looking for it. Hope you enjoyed this episode of what's going on with shipping. If you can, take a moment, subscribe, hit the bell so be alerted about new videos when they come out. Leave a comment, give it a thumbs up, share it across social media. And if you can, don't care about Patreon today or this week, give to a Ukrainian relief agency to help the people of Ukraine. They need your help. They need a lot of help. And in my opinion, we are doing too little, too late to help them. But what little you can help the over 1 million refugees streaming out of Ukraine and the thousands hurt or killed due to this Russian attack. Until our next video, is Sal signing off.